All right, so I got to sit down and show Kaylee The Vanishing from 1993, which I think is a fantastic film, and I've always wanted to show it to her. I've seen it, I don't know, probably 5 times now, and it's one I've talked about a lot over the years because of one scene in particular, but I do think that this is like the most terrifying thing that could happen to anybody ever, for me personally. Having a loved one vanish and not ever knowing what happened to them and thinking the worst always is like the worst fate anybody could ever succumb to.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it works for me on so many levels. I think that I think everyone is fantastic in it. I think Jeff Bridges is just, he's unreal in this movie. We'll talk about it because we are doing a spoiler discussion here. This is not spoiler free. So if you have not seen The Vanishing, please go watch it. I don't know where it's streaming, but look for it. This is a remake of a 1988 French film. I have never seen that, weirdly. I've always been interested to watch it, but I just love this film so much. I don't know. I'm never like dying to watch the original because I have a feeling that it's pretty similar. Although knowing it's a French film, that it's a foreign film, that it's probably a sadder ending, I'm going to assume. So spoilers, guys. But yeah, I'm going to assume that that the killer wins and that they die. Right? I'm going to assume that Jeff is buried alive and his girlfriend comes and she's also buried alive. Rita. I don't know what their names are in the remake or in the original. But then even the original has been remade in another movie called Missing from 2007, which is a TV movie. But it has a 3.8 on IMDb, so no interest at all. But the original, I'd be super interested in. So, what did you think of The Vanishing?
I loved it. I was really into this movie, and I think, I told you a couple times I found it to be really poetic, obviously very sad on a lot of different levels, and it was really fascinating. I think that Barney as a character is a really intriguing killer. I guess he's not really a serial killer, but he's just a really intriguing killer, and his rationalizations for why he does what he does make sense in a really fucked up kind of a way. But it's I can understand when he explains himself, why he's doing what he's doing.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, just so his whole story about when he's a kid and he goes over to the edge of his balcony and he's like, what's going to stop me from jumping? And nothing stops him, so he jumps and he feels this exuberance and full of life because he doesn't have any rules, and that's kind of what he discovers. Him using that feeling to kind of give him a catalyst for wanting to really earn the love of his daughter after he saves a young girl from drowning, and him taking it to the next extreme of what's stopping me from kidnapping somebody and killing them in the worst way that I can imagine. And like I was saying, also using it to make him earn the love of his daughter. It just is, I don't know, it makes sense in a really messed up kind of a way, especially because he's a scientist or a science teacher, and he uses he does it in a very experimental fashion where he's using a stopwatch to time how long it takes chloroform to wear off, and how long, what his heart rate is whenever he's approaching strange women and trying to get them into his car, and just all of that. He's very methodical about it, and it's just, it's creepy. It's really, really creepy. And then we also talked about how he kind of imitates what he is going to do to the woman he kidnaps with his daughter in the first 15 minutes of the movie when he picks her up. and he's like practicing still, walking the door when his daughter gets in the car and like kind of pretending to grab her nose, or grabbing her nose as if he was putting chloroform over it. And it's weird. It's really weird because it's like he loves his daughter, but he's doing this horrible thing that she's never gonna know about because he thinks he needs to have value.
She's gonna know about it now.
Now she will, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I just found him really fascinating, and I think he's really, really creepy, the way that he acts and how awkward he is, but also very intelligent and, like, manipulative. He's something else.
And cold.
So, very cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Calculating. He's a very unique killer, because he has this desire to prove a point to himself, and that's it. Like, typically with killers, the thing that the police always kind of bank on is that these people can't control themselves, that once they've had a taste for it, they'll kill again because, it becomes like a desire of theirs. That's not the case with him, right? He wants to do this. He doesn't care who it's on. He doesn't pick, this girl because she's anything. Yeah. He literally tries to get any girl he can into his car. It's not a pretty girl or she obviously, Sandra Bullock is pretty, but you see him approaching every type of girl in this movie. He doesn't care. It has nothing. Now it's a girl, so yes. I think it's just because he can overpower them. Yes. Right? He doesn't want to do it to a guy, but I think that if he could do it to a guy, he would. I think because he has a child, he wouldn't do it to a kid. But I don't think that, I think that if a young guy got into his car, he would try to overpower him. Maybe,
but it's also a young girl that he saves. So I wonder if it has any meaning to him because it's a girl.
But it's not a kid.
Well. Right, yeah, but...
I don't know. He's intriguing, of course, right? Because, as I said, this is a one-off for him. And then his obsession really becomes, the way he handles Jeff's perseverance about looking for his girlfriend for so long, and the conversation he has with a colleague as they pass this bulletin board, and he's like, you can set your watch by or your calendar by or whatever. He puts it up every month, and he's like, I admire his dedication or his perseverance or whatever. He's so disconnected emotionally from it. It's like, oh wow, he admires him for continuing to look, but doesn't seem to be affected by the fact that Jeff would hurt so much.
Yeah, but
even though he has a daughter that he loves and freaks out about when he thinks she is in trouble or, potentially peril.
It's a point of pride for him, for sure, that he's had this effect on somebody, that now it operates like clockwork. And also I think that, he, oftentimes narcissistic people, they don't truly have the kind of love for their kids that, most people have. It's more like they're an extension of themselves. So they have that same kind of, self-absorbed, selfish type of love. She's my legacy. Right. So I think that's the case with him, because I don't think that he's really capable. You called him calculated, and I think and cold, and I think that's exactly what he is. I don't think he has the type of feelings that most people do.
No, his performance is phenomenal. He sells this 1,000%. Yes. He's so awkward.
Oh my gosh.
And he is so bizarre. When he has conversations, or when even when he's around his family, I would just be like, Dad, are you a serial killer? Because
yes.
You are you're a super awkward person.
He's not socialized well. He's very antisocial.
But he's
in
a
scientist,
scary way,
right? Though. Yeah.
That's some scientists have that. awkwardness to them, but
sure, yeah,
she's
like,
on a whole nother level.
he doesn't have like Asperger's. He's got like psychotic tendencies instead.
I don't know what he has, but man, I mean, just what a performance.
I also think that like everything with what is Sandra Bullock's Jess?
Oh, Diane.
Diane, what the heck? Diane, I feel so bad for her, and I think that, you know, well, ultimately, it's just very tragic because he was giving up that day. Like, he had tried to kidnap some woman, and it didn't work because he, like, accidentally breathed in the chloroform instead because he sneezes. And he's like laughing to himself about it, like, ha ha ha, what a silly joke, Mark. And anyway, it's just like a total random chance. Like, she notices his bracelet that his daughter gave him, and she asks about it, and he just kind of rolls with it and is like, I'm a rep for the company, like, I've got some in my car, why don't you come out and buy them? And she's just like, you know, they just got her and her boyfriend just got over a fight, and obviously they made up, so she's going to do a sweet thing and get him a little gift. And, you know, you see her start to question, like, because he's asking her to get in the car, and she's like, I don't know about it, but then sees the picture of the family and is like, oh, he's a family man. And it's so sad, because, you know, she's just like, she is so beautiful and full of life and everything, and they were going up, you know, they were moving past their quarrel. So it's really sad, and I found it also, it just sucks with Rita then when we moved to her, because, you know, we were talking about it during the film, her reaction to him still being obsessed with Diane is a bit harsh at times, but also understandable, because she doesn't know, like, she's not connected to that person. If it was a boyfriend of hers or a close friend or something, then maybe she would understand what he was going through. But from her perspective, it's like he's obsessing over an old girlfriend that might have just left him, you know, when she's there and in love with him and being, you know, this good partner to him. But obviously, you know, you can totally see his perspective, which, as you have talked about, the speech that he gives, you know, the not knowing whether or not she was alive or dead. It's not, you know, he might be in love with the memory of her, and, you know, that getting taken away so suddenly, like, you can't really blame somebody for having feelings, you know, in that sense, but he's just more consumed with the idea that he needs to find out so that he can finally stop.
Well, he wants to move on.
Yes.
And he wants to move on so that he can be with Rita.
Yeah.
Like, you know, before he meets Rita, I think, ultimately he wants Diane back so him and Diane can be together and that he can be happy. But
sure.
Once he meets Rita, I think that he realizes that him and Diane's relationship wasn't all that great. And he's ready to move on from it. But it's like being in limbo with a relationship that you can never properly end, right? It's like, you know, you want to break up with your last girlfriend before you start dating somebody else, and you can't really break up with her if she's missing, right? So, like, to him, it's like, I can't move on from this until I know. And, you know, his feelings for her are, at this point, really mostly just attached to his obsession, right? Like, as you see, their relationship is not in a good place. You know, he walks away from her and leaves her in a car, which could potentially get her killed.
Yeah.
Leaving, I mean, they almost get hit by a truck, and then he takes off and leaves her in that car. It's a shitty thing to do. And Jeff is also, he can be selfish, right? That's a selfish thing to do. He lies to Rita.
Oh, yes.
A lot.
Yes.
You know, he's telling her he's enlisted in the
God.
Army Reserves and goes off one weekend a month and has like another place, which is like a hotel room. But
so
he must
elaborate.
have that like he must always have that place, because it's not like he's setting that thing up every freaking time he goes there. I'm assuming he like rents that thing indefinitely. But it's terrible to do, but he feels like he can't be honest with her. But from that point on, I feel like he is trying to be honest with her, and she's overreacting. She's overreacting for sure. What he does is shitty, to her by lying, and then what she does in return to him once he starts trying to tell her the truth, which is why he lied to her in the first place, is she's having the reaction that he expected her to have. So when he gets the note under the door, and she then comes to this like golf resort and is just like, you know, when are you ever gonna let it go? It's like, okay, you are out of your mind. Like, this is literally the only lead he's had in years. How is he not going to pay attention to this note under the door? You're being ridiculous.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And I think she realizes that too, you know, and she's out with her friend and she's drunk and she's having one after another. She goes and calls on the phone, and then when she hears Barney, she's like, oh no, I screwed up. And, you know, she kind of dedicates herself to rectifying that, you know, misstep on her behalf. But Jeff's character obviously is the one I would relate to the most here, just because I know I would become him. And the speech that he gives, which you made reference to earlier, about having the ability to choose whether or not she's alive and happy and he never gets to find out, or she's dead, he would choose for her to die. He would kill her just so that he could get it off of his mind and move on, which is a very selfish thing to say, but man, is it completely understandable, because this would drive you insane. And so just Jeff's character is really the driving force for the movie for me, just because that's the character that I completely empathize with the most, because I know that's the character I would be in this situation. But I feel like everyone makes perfect sense. Because you disagree with a character or you think a character is being bitchy, that doesn't make it a plot hole. Right? No. We talked about this before. That's not what constitutes a plot hole. That's just a character you disagree with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in the end, you find out that, you know, Diane was buried alive and died shortly thereafter. Has been dead, probably an hour or two after she went missing.
Yeah. And
for the last 3 to 4 years, Jeff has been looking for a corpse that's buried not, 45 minutes away from the gas station.
Oh my god.
Because he says that he has to keep it within like a 30 mile radius or something. So, but I mean, how would he have ever found her? Unless Barney comes after her. But when Barney walks through that door and like drops the Bullwinkle keys, and he just kind of shakes them, and like the look on Jeff's face in that moment where he's trying to like process, and he looks down and then he looks up and he blinks, and he's just like, he's been waiting for this moment for so long that it's like he's in a daze. He's like thinks he might be dreaming.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden just it overcomes.
Yeah.
And he just beats the shit out of him. And that's a really cool scene too, because like obviously Jeff Bridges wasn't thrown down those stairs, but Kiefer Sutherland was the person throwing the stuntman down the stairs and kicking him. So that was a pretty elaborate scene that I'm sure Kiefer had to really do a lot of practice with, so he wouldn't hurt this stuntman.
Yeah. But
I was really paying attention, and it is for sure Kiefer Sutherland doing all of the fighting on the guy being thrown down the stairs. 2 more things, and you can say whatever you want. Number 1 is this is the same director as the original, which is cool and reminds me of something like Funny Games, where you got the same director doing the American version. I think that's the same with The Grudge as well, right?
Oh,
The Grudge
I think you're right.
is done by the same director
right.
on both. There's that, and then there's the crazy neighbor lady who... That scene, I don't know. Her, like... And then the leprechaun jumped off the Lucky Charms box. That felt a little too ridiculous. Like, I don't know. If you're that crazy, are you really living by yourself? Like, if people know. But it's just, I don't know.
She also,
there was something,
isn't.
The way that she said it,
Yeah.
I was just like, that, it sounded like someone was writing dialogue
Yeah.
for a crazy person who's just like,
has never
trying
been
to
around a crazy
yeah.
person before.
It's just, I don't know. The dialogue felt very forced to me.
Yeah.
It's really it's like a 1 second bit of dialogue. Other than that, I think the film is pretty much flawless.
Yeah, I agree with you about that scene. I think it's a little bit silly. But yeah, the film is, I think everyone's performances are just incredible, and I really, love the atmosphere and like just the 90s drama feel.
Yeah.
The 90s thriller, like everybody's fashion and the way that the women look, and I don't know.
I know what we're gonna watch.
I'm really into it, and it was the same kind of with Heat, where it's just like I really like the aesthetic in general and the way that the film itself like looks. The only other thing I guess I'll say is just that being buried alive would be terrible, and it's so terrifying to think of like somebody that you love dying that way, because it's just it's awful. I mean, there's tons of horrible ways to die, but being buried alive is, even if you aren't a claustrophobic person, just like imagining like waking up and not being able to move your arms and there's just dirt, and you know that the more you breathe and freak out, the shorter time you're gonna have.
It's such a small coffin. I've seen a lot of people buried alive in movies.
Sure.
Like it's something that's done in tons of movies, whether it's Ryan Reynolds buried in Buried, Body Double, or Kill Bill. Or, I mean, it's been done in so many films. This has to be arguably the smallest casket I've ever seen anyone buried in. He's like this.
But my God, it would just suck. It would suck so bad.
But Jeff really does, like, go through what his girlfriend goes through, yes. Right? Like, Diane, she gets drugged, and then she wakes up in this thing, and he's in there so long that he blacks out. So, like, he was in there till his oxygen gave out.
Yeah.
Or he, like, screamed so much and made himself black out from just exhaustion. Plus the lighter burns up oxygen in there faster. So, which, of course, was gifted to him by Diane. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, unless you've got that, like, 1-inch punch that the bride, Beatrix Kiddo, has from... Kill Bill, I guess you ain't getting out of there. That being said, I think that if Jeff could have broke through, I think he could have got out of there, because when Rita goes to dig his ass up, he is like 4 inches under the dirt.
And the soil is very like loose and
it's wet though.
Yeah.
So it's heavy.
And it's raining,
It's super heavy. So, but Barney is a lazy ass freaking No, what are the people, the grounds people at a cemetery?
Crypt keeper.
Kitties? No, not the crypt keeper. There's like a dude who digs the graves. A grave digger. I literally said it. Yeah, he's a terrible grave digger.
Yeah, he's a terrible.
I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Dude, they dig the grave.
Yeah, that was pretty ridiculous.
Crypt keeper also, like, they keep the crypts.
Unsubscribe to the channel. We don't know what we're talking about. Never mind. Don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say about it. I think that, yeah, we could get into small little things here and there, but I do love I love him. I love the film starting out with him planning everything out. Yeah. You're kind of just watching like, what the hell's... And I love the subversion of picking up his daughter, and you think that's who he's gonna kill.
Yes.
And you're like, oh no, this guy's gonna kill this little kid, and then it's like, nope.
He's a dad, which also makes it like, it is that subversion though. Like you just don't really think of like killers as being family men or, being fathers or mothers. And obviously there are killers out there who are fathers or mothers or both.
And one girl gets her life saved by a sneeze.
Yeah.
That girl was
screwed. She was
in the car.
She
has no idea her life.
But this is, this movie,
been saved.
This is why
what's funny is he kidnaps that Sandra Bullock, Diane's character, within about 5 minutes of that.
Yeah.
So that girl I
would've
feel
been
like
the one.
that girl, once that guy was like, this girl went missing from this location.
Oh, sure.
This girl would have been like,
she would have known.
should
I
have
guess.
heard
That's
about
a
it
good
and been
point.
like,
That's a good point.
some dude tried to lure me into his car and acted really weird and left me in the car.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you
You're
feel like
right.
that girl
That is a good point.
would
She probably
maybe
would
say
have
something?
If she, I mean, yeah, assuming because it was on the news in that area, and there
Oh,
was
and Jeff is
signs.
like religious.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think Diane would have been saved. She was dead super quick after.
No,
But
no,
I think
no.
Barney would have got caught
Right.
pretty quickly
That's
after.
what you would have been going for.
Because they never looked at the security cameras or anything.
I don't know. I mean, it was so busy at the gas
It
station.
is busy.
I was just gonna say that's like, this is the movie that you're like, you show your daughters, and you're
Sure.
like, this is why you have to be so cautious in the world with everybody, even with nice people.
Yeah, be that girl that's on the street that's like, leave me alone.
That's what you have to do.
Yes.
And then sometimes you get killed just for doing that too, so it's like, you can't win.
I'm going to point out one last thing and we're going to sign off. And then Kaylee will beat you over the head with subscriptions and all that stuff. If you look very closely, when Jeff is frantically looking for Diane in the parking lot, he walks past this big semi-truck that's still out on the main drag. And if you look closely for 1 second, it's in the very far right hand of the screen. There is a person laying on the road waving like at cars. He is full down on his belly on the ground going like this, which I have to assume is some like, assistant or grip or something that was on the set. It isn't a set, but it was on location, and they were like filming in an active area, and they were like telling them to like run out and stop cars from coming in, but like to get out of the camera like path. So he was like on the ground, he's like, please, and he probably got ran over for this movie.
He's probably dead.
But he's laying in the middle of an intersection, just being like this. If you look for it, I caught it. It was like such a blink and you miss it thing, but I was like, what the hell? And I rewound it and was like, there's a guy laying in the middle of a busy street going like this.
So bizarre.
So definitely look for it. It's pretty funny. So subscribe to the channel and
subscribe if you like us, and like the video if you like us, and share the video with your friends and family and coworkers and
strangers on the
acquaintances, strangers on the street.
Be like, have you heard of Sinister Cinema? If not, I'm going to bury you alive.
Just like Jeff Bridges in The Vanishing.
It's like Barney Cousins.
93.
93. Yeah. There is similarity to Silence of the Lambs in here because he puts the arm cast on. That is lure, that he has to be weaker.
Yeah.
Not that he has to be stronger, but that he has to appear weaker. That's the same thing Buffalo Bill does to get
No
that
way.
girl to get into his van.
I see some guy in an arm cast or a leg cast coming up to me asking for help. I am
break his other
breaking all his rest of his limbs.
Yeah. So yeah, great film.
Yes.
If for some reason you haven't seen it and you're still here,
You watch the whole spoiler discussion. Go watch the film.
yeah, it's a great film.
Yes.
And let us know about the original and if it's worth watching. Is it different enough to warrant us watching it, or is it pretty much the same with like a slightly different ending? Which, if it is, you can just tell us what that ending is. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Me too.
Just be like, oh, the Jeff character dies. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. If that's what it is, then I have no interest in watching it. I'm sure it's great, but I love this one, and I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
that's it.
That's it.
Bye.
Bye.